The diplomatic ship Celestial Harmony moved slowly towards Station Omega-7. The station was huge. It floated in space like a metal city, with thousands of lights blinking from its surface. Ships of all sizes came and went through its many docking ports. This was the biggest trading hub in the Orion Arm, and today it would receive its first official human delegation. Inside the ship, Ambassador Kim Dae-hyun stood in front of a mirror. He adjusted his collar for the 10th time. His hands were steady, but his heart was beating fast. This mission was important. Humanity had only joined the galactic community 5 years ago, and most alien species still treated them like children. Weak children from a weak planet. Lieutenant Park Yuna walked up behind him. She was his security officer, a woman of few words but sharp eyes. She had served in the military for 15 years before joining the diplomatic corps. Her body was solid and strong, built from years of training. "Sir, we dock in 10 minutes, she said. Dae-hyun nodded. "How are the others?" "Nervous, excited, ready." The ambassador turned to face her. "You know what they say about us out there." Yuna's face showed no emotion. "I know. They think we are weak because Earth has low gravity. 9.8 meters per second squared," Dae-hyun said with a small smile. "The Volcari come from a planet with 4 times that. The Thronax have almost 4 times as well. Even the small Palori have twice our gravity. And they think this makes them better than us. They do." Dae-hyun looked out the window at the growing station. "Today, we show them they are wrong." The ship shook gently as it connected to the docking port. The airlock lights changed from red to green. Dae-hyun took a deep breath and walked forward. His team of 6 followed behind him. Yuna stayed close to his right side. The airlock door opened with a hiss. Cold air rushed in, carrying strange smells from the station. Standing in front of them was a Volcari customs officer. He was tall, almost 3 meters, with gray skin and 4 muscular arms. His eyes were small and dark, and his mouth stretched wide in what might have been a smile. "Welcome to Station Omega-7, the Volcari said through his translator device. "I am Officer Corvin. I will process your arrival." "Thank you," Dae-hyun replied with a polite bow. "I am Ambassador Kim Dae-hyun of Earth." Corvin looked down at the humans. His eyes moved slowly over each one. Then he let out a sound that the translator turned into laughter. "Ah, yes. The Earthlings. We received notice of your visit." He turned to another Volcari standing nearby. "Look at them. So small. So thin." The other Volcari laughed too. More aliens in the docking bay stopped to watch. A group of Thronax merchants pointed at the humans and spoke in low voices. Even a few Palori, who were smaller than humans, seemed amused. Corvin turned back to Dae-hyun. "Do not worry, little ones. We have adjusted the environmental controls for you. The gravity in this section is now at minimum. We would not want you to float away." He laughed again at his own joke. Dae-hyun kept his smile steady. "Your consideration is most kind. Come, come. Step forward. We must scan you for entry." The ambassador walked forward onto the station deck. His steps were normal, controlled. Behind him, his team followed. Then Lieutenant Park Yuna stepped through the airlock. Her boot hit the metal deck, and something strange happened. The floor made a loud groaning sound. The metal bent slightly under her foot, leaving a small dent. She took another step. Another groan. Another small dent. Corvin's laughter stopped. He stared at the floor, then at Yuna. His forearms dropped to his sides. "What? What is this?" He whispered. "Why?" Yuna looked down at the deck, as if noticing it for the first time. "Oh, I apologize. I will try to step more softly." She continued walking, but now everyone was watching. Every step she took made the deck protest. It did not break, but it bent. the metal that was designed to support Velkari soldiers was struggling under this small human woman. The Thronax merchants had stopped laughing. The Pelori backed away. Corvin stood frozen, his translator making small, clicking sounds as it tried to process his confusion. Daehyun turned around and looked at the gathered aliens. His smile was still polite, but now there was something else in his eyes. "Perhaps," he said calmly, "there has been a misunderstanding about Earth's gravity." He let the words hang in the air. The aliens stared. Some of them understood immediately. Others were still confused. But all of them were now looking at the humans differently. The truth was simple, but the galaxy had never bothered to learn it. Yes, Earth had lower gravity than most homeworlds. But that did not mean humans were weak. It meant the opposite. On high-gravity worlds, creatures evolved to resist gravity. They developed thick bones and massive muscles just to stand up and walk. Every movement was a fight against their own planet. They were strong, yes, but only in short bursts. Only when pushing against resistance. Humans were different. They had evolved not to resist gravity, but to use it. Their bodies were designed for movement, for endurance, for carrying loads across vast distances. Their ancestors had hunted by chasing animals for hours until the animals collapsed from exhaustion. They had walked across continents. They had built great structures by hand. And when humans traveled to space, they did not become weak. They trained. They adapted. They made themselves stronger. Lieutenant Park Yuna had spent 3 years training on a high-gravity station before this mission. Her bones had grown denser. Her muscles had doubled in strength. The gravity on Station Omega-7 felt like nothing to her. She could have jumped to the ceiling if she wanted, but she did not. That would have been rude. Instead, she simply stood beside her ambassador and waited. Corvin finally found his voice. "This way," he said quietly. I will take you to the registration office." As the humans followed him, the crowd parted to let them through. No one laughed now. No one made jokes about floating away. Daehyun walked with his head held high. This was just the beginning. The galaxy had underestimated humanity for years. They had called Earth a weak planet and humans a weak species. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Behind him, Yuna allowed herself a small smile. The floor continued to groan softly under her boots. The trade negotiations had been going on for 3 days. 3 long, frustrating days of sitting in uncomfortable chairs while the Thronax merchant council found new ways to insult Earth and everything it produced. Delegate Cho Hyun-woo sat at the center of the human delegation's table. He was a patient man. He had spent 20 years as a trade negotiator on Earth, dealing with difficult people and impossible demands. But the Thronax were testing even his limits. Merchant Prime Gorthax sat across from him. The Thronax was a large creature, almost 2 meters wide, with thick orange skin covered in hard plates. He had 2 small eyes that never seemed to blink and a mouth full of flat, grinding teeth. When he spoke, his voice sounded like rocks rubbing together. "Let us review the facts once more," Gorthax said slowly. "Earth products are inferior. This is not opinion. This is simple truth." Hyun-woo kept his face calm. "Our products meet all galactic quality standards. Standards made for weak species," Gorthax replied. Several Thronax behind him made sounds of agreement. "Your mining operations are shallow. Your metals are poorly refined. Your machinery breaks under proper stress. We have not received any complaints from our current trading partners. Your current partners are the Pelori." Gorthax made a sound like a snort. "They come from a world only slightly heavier than yours. They do not know quality either." The insult hung in the air. The Pelori ambassador, who was sitting as an observer, shifted uncomfortably in her seat but said nothing. Hyun-woo took a slow breath. Perhaps if you could provide specific examples. Examples? Gorthax reached under the table and pulled out a metal object. It was a power coupling, a device used to connect energy systems on spacecraft. He dropped it on the table with a heavy thump. This is Thronax engineering, built on a world with 3.8 standard gravity, built to last. He reached under the table again and pulled out a second coupling. This one looked different, sleeker, and more compact. This is Earth engineering. We obtained it from one of your cargo ships. He pushed it toward Haiyan Wu. Compare them yourself. Haiyan Wu picked up the human coupling. It was light in his hands, well balanced. He could see the careful welding, the precise measurements. It was good work. I see nothing wrong with this, he said. Gorthax laughed. Of course, you see nothing wrong. You do not know what you are looking at. He picked up the Thronax coupling and squeezed it with one massive hand. The metal did not bend. Thronax children could break your device. It is made of weak metal by weak hands on a weak world. In the corner of the room, engineer Beek Su-min had been sitting quietly. She was not officially part of the negotiation team. She was there as a technical advisor, meant to speak only when asked. But now she stood up and walked toward the table. May I? She asked, pointing at the Thronax coupling. Gorthax looked at her with surprise. Then, amusement crossed his face. Be careful, human. That component weighs 40 of your kilograms. I would not want you to hurt yourself. Su-min smiled politely. She reached out and picked up the Thronax coupling with one hand. The room went silent. She turned the device over slowly, examining it from all angles. Her eyes were sharp and focused. After a moment, she began to speak. This coupling is poorly designed, she said simply. Gorthax's amusement disappeared. What did you say? The stress fractures here. Su-min pointed at tiny lines in the metal. And here. And here. Your engineers use brute force to shape the metal instead of proper heating techniques. The molecular structure is damaged. She set down the Thronax coupling and picked up the human one. This coupling is heat-formed. The metal was carefully shaped at the correct temperature, then cooled slowly. There are no stress fractures. The molecular structure is intact. That is, Gorthax started. I am not finished, Su-min said calmly. She held up both couplings. Your coupling weighs 40 kilograms because your engineers did not know how to make it strong without making it heavy. Our coupling weighs 12 kilograms and can handle the same energy load. She set down the human coupling and picked up the Thronax one again. Then, slowly, she pressed her thumbs into the metal where the stress fractures were. The coupling bent. Gorthax jumped to his feet. His chair crashed to the floor behind him. Impossible. Not impossible, Su-min said. Physics. She set down the bent coupling. Your world has high gravity. Your engineers build heavy things because they think heavy means strong. But heavy only means heavy. Strong means understanding your materials. The room was completely silent. Every Thronax was staring at the bent coupling on the table. Their best engineering, damaged by a human woman using only her hands. Gorthax found his voice. How? How are you this strong? Earth's gravity is low. Your species should be weak. Su-min looked at him with calm eyes. I spent 15 years working in Earth's deep oceans. At the bottom of the sea, the pressure is more than 1,000 times normal. My diving suit weighed 3 times as much as your coupling. I wore it for 10 hours every day. She paused to let that sink in. Humans do not build for the gravity we came from, she continued. We build for the gravity we are going to. We build for the deep ocean. We build for space. We build for worlds heavier than Earth. We build for the future. Haiyan Wu stood up from his seat. He walked around the table to stand beside Su-min. The two humans faced the Thronax delegation together. Perhaps, Hyanwu said, we should restart these negotiations with a better understanding of each other. Gorthax looked at the bent coupling. He looked at Sumin's calm face. He looked at Hyanwu's steady eyes. Then, slowly, he sat back down in his chair. Perhaps, he said quietly, we should. The negotiations continued for another week. But the tone was different now. The Thronax no longer laughed at Earth's products. They no longer called humans weak. They asked questions instead. They wanted to learn how humans could be so strong with such low gravity. And slowly, they began to understand Earth was not a weak world that produced weak creatures. Earth was a training ground. Every human who left the planet carried millions of years of evolution inside them. They were built to adapt. They were built to endure. They were built to survive. The Thronax built heavy things because their world was heavy. Humans built smart things because their minds were sharp. And when those smart things were held in strong hands, they could change the galaxy. On the last day of negotiations, Gorthax approached Sumin privately. I owe you an apology, he said. I judged your species by the wrong measure. Sumin shook her head. Many species make the same mistake. We are used to it. I will not make it again. Gorthax extended one of his thick hands. Perhaps one day, Thronax and humans will build something together. Something strong and smart. Sumin took his hand and shook it firmly. I would like that, she said. The reception hall was full of noise and movement. Aliens of all species walked between tables covered with strange foods and drinks. Lights of many colors floated near the ceiling. Music played from somewhere, a mix of sounds that no single species would call pleasant, but that offended no one too much. Commander Kang Ji-hoon stood near the back wall, holding a glass of something purple that tasted like sweet metal. He was not enjoying himself. Diplomatic parties were not his strength. He preferred clear orders and simple missions. But the ambassador had asked him to attend, so here he was. A group of Valkyrie military officers stood nearby. They were loud and drinking heavily. Their translator devices crackled as they spoke in their rough language. Ji-hoon tried to ignore them, but their voices kept getting louder. Earth, one of them said, and the translator made it sound like a curse word. What a joke of a planet. Another Valkyrie laughed. Their soldiers train in one gravity. One. My daughter trains harder than that. Do they even have soldiers? Or do they just wave flags and hope enemies go away? The group burst into laughter. Ji-hoon's hand tightened around his glass. He told himself to stay calm. Getting angry would not help anyone. Then one of the Valkyrie noticed him watching. Look, brothers. A human soldier. Should we be scared? The others turned to look at Ji-hoon. Their eyes were mocking. Their four-armed bodies seemed to swell with amusement. The one who had spoken walked closer. Ji-hoon could see the medals on his chest, the marks of rank on his shoulders. This was not just any soldier. This was someone important. I am military attached Varth, the Valkyrie said. And you are? Commander Kang Ji-hoon. United Nations Space Force. Space Force. Varth smiled, showing rows of small teeth. Such a grand name for such a small thing. Tell me, Commander, how do humans defend themselves? Do you ask nicely for enemies to leave? Ji-hoon set down his glass. We fight when we must. Fight? Varth laughed again. With what? Your thin arms? Your weak legs? A Valkyrie child could defeat your best warrior. Ji-hoon felt something cold settle in his chest. It was not anger anymore. It was something calmer. Something more dangerous. Would you like to find out? He asked. The laughter stopped. Varth stared at him. What did you say? I said, would you like to find out? You think humans are weak. I think you are wrong. Let us test which one of us is correct. Voreth's eyes narrowed. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then a wide smile spread across his face. A challenge. From a human? He turned to his companions. Did you hear that? The little creature wants to fight. Not a fight, Ji-hoon said. A test. Your station gymnasium. Whatever trial you choose. I will compete against any Valkyrie you select. The reception hall had gone quiet. Aliens from other species were watching now. Even the music seemed softer. Vareth studied Ji-hoon carefully. You are serious. I am. Very well. Voreth straightened to his full height. We accept your challenge. 1 hour. The gymnasium. I will bring our champion. Within the hour, a crowd had gathered at the station gymnasium. Word had spread quickly. A human had challenged the Valkyrie to a physical contest. Everyone wanted to see what would happen. The gymnasium was large, with high ceilings and equipment designed for many different species. In the center, a course had been set up with obstacles and markers. Standing at the start line was a Valkyrie soldier, even larger than Voreth. This is Karth, Voreth announced. He has won our military's endurance competition for 6 cycles in a row. No one has ever defeated him. Karth looked down at Ji-hoon. The human barely reached his chest. Karth's 4 arms were thick with muscle. His legs were like tree trunks. The test is simple, Voreth continued. Carry this weighted pack across the obstacle course. First one to complete 20 kilometers wins. If you cannot continue, you lose. He pointed to 2 packs sitting on the ground. Each one weighed 200 kilograms. A fair weight, Voreth said with a smile. Light for a Valkyrie, but perhaps too heavy for a human. Ji-hoon walked over to his pack and picked it up. The weight settled onto his shoulders. It was heavy, yes, but not impossible. He had trained with heavier. I am ready, he said. Karth strapped on his own pack with ease. He barely seemed to notice the weight. A signal sounded, and they began. Karth started fast. His forelegs churned through the first obstacles, while Ji-hoon was still finding his rhythm. By the 500-meter mark, Karth was far ahead. The crowd cheered for him, but Ji-hoon did not try to catch up. He kept his pace steady, 1 foot in front of the other. Breathe in, breathe out. This was not a sprint. This was a marathon. At the 1 kilometer mark, something changed. Karth's steps became slower. His breathing became louder. He stopped at an obstacle and rested for a moment before continuing. Ji-hoon passed him without stopping. Karth pushed himself to catch up. His muscles strained. Sweat poured from his gray skin. He managed to get ahead again, but only for a short time. At 2 kilometers, he stopped again. This time, he bent over and gasped for air. Ji-hoon kept moving. At 5 kilometers, Karth was far behind. His forelegs wobbled with each step. The pack that had seemed so light now looked like it was crushing him. At 10 kilometers, Karth collapsed. Medical staff rushed to help him. The crowd was silent. Everyone watched as Ji-hoon continued around the course, his pace unchanged. He completed the full 20 kilometers. Then, without stopping, he jogged back to where Karth lay on the ground. Are you all right? Ji-hoon asked. He was breathing a little harder than normal, but that was all. Karth looked up at him with shock and confusion. How? He managed to say. How are you still standing? Ji-hoon knelt down beside him. Your species evolved to resist gravity. Short bursts of power to overcome the weight of your world. But then you must rest. He helped Karth sit up. Humans evolved differently. Our gravity was lower, so we did not need power to stand. Instead, we developed endurance. Our ancestors hunted by chasing animals for hours, for days, until the animals could not run anymore. We do not stop. We do not rest. We keep going until we reach our goal. Korath stared at him. Persistence hunting. I have heard of this. I thought it was a myth. It is not a myth. It is what we are. Ji-hoon stood up and offered his hand. On Earth, what I just did is called a warm-up. The crowd was completely silent. The Valkyrie soldiers looked at each other with wide eyes. Vorath stood frozen, his forearms hanging limp at his sides. Ji-hoon helped Korath to his feet. The Valkyrie champion was shaking, partly from exhaustion and partly from something else. Understanding, perhaps. I misjudged your species, Korath said quietly. I will not make that mistake again. Ji-hoon nodded. We get that a lot. He walked back through the crowd toward the exit. The aliens moved aside to let him pass. No one laughed. No one made jokes about Earth's low-gravity dot behind him. Varth was still staring at the obstacle course. 20 kilometers. The human had run 20 kilometers with 200 kilograms on his back and called it a warm-up. Perhaps, Varth thought the galaxy had made a very serious mistake about the humans. Perhaps they all had. The Great Hall of the Galactic Science Council was the largest meeting space on station. Omega 7. Its ceiling rose 50 meters high, covered with screens that could display images from any world in the galaxy. Seats curved in great circles around. A central stage designed to hold representatives from over 200 species. Today, every seat was filled. Dr. Shinhana stood backstage, reviewing her notes for the last time. She had spent her entire career studying human biology and evolution. She had written papers that most scientists ignored. She had given lectures to empty rooms. Today would be different. Today, the whole galaxy was listening. An assistant approached her. Dr. Shin, they are ready for you. Hana nodded and put away her notes. She did not need them anymore. She knew this information better than anyone alive. She walked onto the stage. The crowd fell silent. Thousands of eyes from dozens of species watched as this small human woman took her place at the center of the hall. The screens above came to life with the first image of her presentation, a simple blue and green planet floating in space. This is Earth, Hana began. Her voice was calm and clear. My homeworld. For the past century, you have called it a weak planet. You have called us a weak species. Today, I am here to explain why you were wrong. She touched a control, and the image changed. Now it showed a comparison chart. Earth on one side, other homeworlds on the other. The gravity numbers were displayed clearly. Yes, Earth has lower gravity than most of your worlds. 9.8 meters per second squared. The Valkyrie homeworld has 40. 2. The Thronax have 37.4. Even the Polori have 20.5. She paused. You looked at these numbers and made assumptions. You assumed that lower gravity meant weaker bodies. You were using the wrong logic. The screens changed again. Now they showed images of different species next to their gravity numbers. High-gravity worlds produce creatures that resist gravity. Your bodies evolved to fight against your planets. Every moment of every day, you push against the weight pressing down on you. This made you strong in certain ways, but it also limited you. Hana walked across the stage, her steps confident. Valkyrie can lift tremendous weights for short times. Then they must rest. Thronax can survive crushing pressure, but they move slowly. Even the Polori, who have only twice Earth's gravity, are built for standing still rather than moving freely. She stopped at the center of the stage. Humans evolved differently. Our gravity was constant, yes, but it was manageable. We did not need to fight against it. Instead, we learned to use it. The screen showed diagrams of human anatomy. Bones, muscles, tendons, the heart. Look at our tendons. They store elastic energy with every step we take. We bounce instead of stomp. Look at our legs. They are designed for motion, not stability. We are built to run, to walk, to move for hours without stopping. New images appeared. Humans running across open land. Humans climbing mountains. Humans swimming through oceans. Our ancestors did not have claws or fangs or thick armor. They had something better. They had endurance. They could chase prey for 50 kilometers until the animal collapsed from exhaustion. They could carry children and supplies across entire continents. They could keep going when every other creature on their planet had to stop. The Pelori ambassador raised a small arm. But surely this makes you weak in high-gravity environments. Hannah smiled. That is what everyone thought. Let me show you what happens when humans go to high gravity. The screens changed to show humans in laboratories, on space stations, on other planets. When humans first left Earth, scientists worried we would become weak without gravity to pull on us. They were half right. In zero gravity, our muscles and bones did begin to shrink. So we created artificial gravity on our ships. We trained in higher gravity than Earth's. Not because we needed to, but because we could. Data charts appeared. Bone density comparisons. Muscle mass measurements. Cardiovascular efficiency ratings. These charts show humans who trained for 2 years at 1.5 Earth gravity. Their bones became 30% denser than average. Their muscles doubled in strength. Their hearts became more efficient. They adapted. Hannah let the data sink in. This is what you do not understand about humans. We are not a finished species. We are not locked into our biology. We change. We adapt. We improve. Low gravity did not make us weak. It gave us room to grow. She touched the control again. Now the screens showed humans working in extreme environments. Deep ocean mining. High-gravity research stations. Rescue missions in dangerous space. Today, humans work in places that would kill members of other species. Our deep-sea miners operate at pressures that would crush Volcari armor. Our high-gravity specialists train at 4 times Earth normal. Our rescue teams go where no one else can survive. The audience was completely silent. Many of them were seeing this data for the first time. For years, they had ignored humans as too weak to matter. Now, they were learning how wrong they had been. Let me tell you a story, Hannah continued. 50,000 years ago, a group of humans left Africa. They walked. For generations they walked. Across deserts, over mountains, through frozen lands. They walked until they had covered the entire planet. Every corner of Earth, humans reached on foot. The screens showed maps of human migration, arrows spreading across continents. No other species on Earth did this. Only humans. Because only humans could walk forever without stopping. Only humans had the endurance to cross a world. Hannah turned to face the audience directly. You measured our gravity and thought you understood us. You should have measured our history instead. You should have seen what we did on our weak planet. We built pyramids that stand after 5,000 years. We crossed oceans on wooden ships. We flew through the sky. We walked on our moon. We reached out and touched the stars. Her voice grew stronger. We did all this on a planet with low gravity. Imagine what we will do now that we have high gravity to train in. Imagine what we will become in 100 years, 1,000 years. You are not looking at a weak species. You are looking at a species that has not yet shown its full strength. The hall was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, applause began. It started with the Pelori delegation, then spread to others. Even some Velkarian Thronax joined in. Hannah stood quietly and waited for the applause to fade. I am not here to threaten you, she said finally. I am here to explain. Humans want to be partners in this galaxy, not conquerors. We want to share what we have learned and learn from what you know. The partnership requires respect. It requires understanding. She looked around the hall meeting. Eyes with representatives from every species she could see. We are not weak. We never were. And now that we have joined the galactic community, we will prove it every day. Not through war, not through domination, through persistence, through endurance, through never giving up, no matter how hard the challenge. She smiled. That is what humans are. That is what we have always been. And the sooner the galaxy understands this, the better things will be for everyone. The applause began again, stronger this time. Hana walked off the stage with her head held high. Behind her, the screen still showed images of humans in action, running, building, exploring, adapting, growing stronger with every generation. The galaxy had underestimated humanity for a long time. That mistake was finally ending. 6 months had passed since the humans first arrived at Station Omega-7. 6 months since Lieutenant Park Yuna cracked the deck plates with her boots. 6 months since Dr. Shin Hana gave her speech to the Galactic Science Council. In that time, everything had changed. Captain Lee Tae-young stood on the bridge of the UNSS Persistence, watching the stars through the main viewport. Her ship was the first human vessel to join the Galactic Peacekeeping Fleet. It was smaller than the Valkyrie warships and less armored than the Thronax cruisers. But it had something the other ships did not have. It had a human crew. "Captain, we are receiving a distress signal," reported Lieutenant Moon Jae-won from the communication station. "Valkyrie mining vessel. They are trapped in the pulsar zone." Tae-young turned to face her crew. They were already moving, preparing for action. No one needed to ask what they would do. They already knew. "Set course for the pulsar zone," she ordered. Full speed. The pulsar zone was a region of space that other species called the death zone. A collapsed star at its center spun rapidly, sending out waves of radiation and gravity that shifted without warning. Navigation was almost impossible. Rescue operations were considered suicide. Other species sent drones into the pulsar zone. The drones usually failed. Too many died. Too much was lost. Humans sent volunteers. The Persistence entered the outer edge of the zone 2 hours later. Immediately, the gravity began to shift. The ship groaned as forces pushed and pulled from different directions. Normal species would have struggled just to stand. Tae-young's crew kept working. "Gravity spike in 30 seconds, reported Navigator Yoon Hae-jin. Her fingers moved across her console with practice speed. "Adjusting course. Medical team ready," announced Dr. Kwon Min-ho from the medical bay. "Preparing for possible injuries. Engineering reports all systems stable," added Chief Engineer An Soon-ho. "The ship can handle this, Captain." Tae-young nodded. Her crew was the best humanity had to offer. Every one of them had trained in high gravity. Every one of them had prepared for exactly this kind of mission. They were not afraid of the death zone. They were ready for it. The Valkyrie mining vessel appeared on their screens. It was damaged, drifting toward the pulsar. Inside, 14 miners were trapped. They had maybe 2 hours before the radiation killed them. "Gravity readings at the vessel?" Tae-young asked. "Fluctuating between 5 and 7 times Earth normal," Hae-jin replied. "Impossible for Valkyrie rescue teams, but not impossible for us." Tae-young opened the ship-wide communication. "Rescue team, prepare for deployment. This is a hard one. Gravity will be high and unstable. Are you ready?" The response came immediately. "Ready, Captain." The rescue team launched 20 minutes later. Their shuttle was small and fast, designed to handle the unstable gravity. Inside, 6 humans in heavy suits checked their equipment one last time. Team leader Sergeant Oh Yoon-bai led the way. She had been born on Mars and raised in Earth's gravity. Then she had trained for 3 years at 4 times Earth normal. The fluctuating gravity of the pulsar zone was uncomfortable, but she could handle it. Contact with Valkyrie vessel in 5 minutes. The pilot announced. The shuttle shook as a gravity wave passed through. Yunbai grabbed a handhold and waited for it to pass. Beside her, the other team members did the same. No panic. No fear. Just patience. They reached the Valkyrie vessel and attached to its airlock. The seal hissed as atmospheres connected. Yunbai opened the inner door and stepped through. The gravity hit her immediately. 6 times Earth normal. Her suit helped, but she still felt the weight pressing down on every part of her body. Walking was hard. Breathing was harder. She walked anyway. The Valkyrie miners were huddled in the vessel's emergency shelter. When Yunbai opened the door, they looked up with shock. They had expected to die here, alone in the death zone. They had not expected rescue. "I am Sergeant O. Yunbai, United Nations Space Force," she said through her translator. "We are here to take you home." One of the Valkyries struggled to stand. Even in their own gravity, he was weak from radiation exposure and fear. "How are you standing?" he whispered. "This gravity. No species can function in this." Yunbai smiled behind her helmet. "We trained for it." The evacuation took an hour. The humans carried the Valkyrie one by one to the shuttle. Some of the miners were too weak to move, so the rescue team carried them on their backs. 6 times Earth gravity, 14 passengers. 1 hour, when the shuttle finally docked with the Persistence. Tae Young was waiting in the medical bay. Dr. Kwan and his team immediately began treating the miners. They would all survive. Bai removed her helmet and sat down heavily. Even for her, the mission had been exhausting. But she was smiling. "Good work, Sergeant," Tae Young said. "Just doing our job, Captain." Later that day, the Persistence received a message from Station Omega 7. The Valkyrie government wanted to officially thank the human crew. They also wanted to understand how the rescue had been possible. Tae Young recorded her response. "We trained for it," she said simply. "Humans adapt. It is what we do. It is what we have always done. Give us a challenge, and we will find a way to overcome it. Not because we are stronger than other species. Because we are more stubborn." She smiled at the camera. "We do not give up. We do not stop. We persist. It is in our name, and it is in our nature. If the galaxy wants our help, we will be there. No matter how dangerous. No matter how difficult. That is our promise." The message spread across the station, then across the sector, then across the galaxy. The species that had once laughed at Earth's low gravity now spoke of humans with respect. Some even spoke with awe. In the officers' mess of the Persistence, Ensign Nam Min Young was eating dinner with a young Thronax engineer named Gorvan. He had specifically requested transfer to a human ship after hearing about the rescue. "I still do not fully understand," Gorvan admitted. "By all logic, your body should break under such gravity. But you keep going." Min Young cracked open a hard-shelled nut with her bare fingers. "That is the secret about humans," she said. "We are not built to survive. We are built to persist. What is the difference? Survival means staying alive in good conditions. Persistence means staying alive in any conditions." She popped a nut into her mouth. "Our ancestors survived ice ages, famines, wars, and disasters that killed 90% of their population. The ones who lived were the most stubborn ones. And they had children, and those children were stubborn too." She smiled at Gorvan. "Every human alive today is descended from thousands of generations of survivors. We are the children of people who refuse to die. That is our inheritance. That is our strength." Gorvan was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. "I think I understand now," he said. "You are not the strongest species. You are not the smartest. But you are the ones who never stop trying." "Exactly." Min Young raised her glass. To persistence. Gorvan raised his own glass. To persistence. Across the galaxy, a new saying was spreading. It appeared in trade stations and military bases, in science labs and government halls. Species who had never thought twice about humans now repeated it to each other. Never bet against the human in the long run. Because that was exactly what humans were made for. Not the short burst. Not the explosive moment. The long run. The endless journey. The race that had no finish line. They've started as hunters who chased their prey across continents. Now they were explorers who crossed the stars. The distance was different, but the spirit was the same. Keep moving. Keep trying. Keep going until you reach your goal. That was humanity's gift to itself. And now, it was humanity's gift to the galaxy. In her quarters on the Persistence, Captain Li Tae-young looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, other species were learning about humans. Some were worried. Some were excited. Some were planning how to use this knowledge. Tae-young was not concerned. Whatever challenges came, humanity would face them. They would adapt. They would endure. They would persist, because that was what humans did. That was what they had always done, and that was what they would always do. The stars stretched out before her, infinite and full of possibility. Tae-young smiled and went back to work. There was much to do, and humans never stopped working.